Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with an article from the Daily Signal dated March 6th. It says, Blue State's domestic extremism task force stacked with leftist groups, critics fear. And I've said before a couple of times that Washington State is turning out to be a bit of a problem, and if you're a conservative, you probably should get out of that state. Okay, leave them to themselves. And here is the SPLC hate map, okay, which they've been sued I don't know how many times about stuff like this and lost. So it says Washington State has launched a domestic extremism task force, and conservatives are sounding the alarm about task force members' ties to an organization notorious for branding mainstream conservative and Christian organizations as hate groups. I'm guessing that would be the SPLC, as it says right here. So State Senate Bill 5950, signed by then Governor Jay Inslee, a Democrat, on April 1st of 2024, and it's not an April Fool's joke, established a domestic extremism and mass violence task force, which will recommend changes to state law. It says the task force includes many left-wing groups with ties to the Southern Poverty Law Center, a nonprofit law firm that sued KKK chapters into bankruptcy, and now publishes a hate map that includes parental rights groups such as Moms for Liberty, law firms such as Alliance Defending Freedom, and Christian groups such as the Family Research Council alongside Klan chapters. Yes, the Klan and all those groups have nothing to do with each other. They are nowhere near the same. So it says the SPLC's accusation against the Family Research Council inspired a domestic terrorism attack in 2012. Yes, it did, and if you don't know about that, go look it up. It says it's self-evident how this entity is very dangerous to people of faith, to institutions that have a conservative worldview. Brad Dacus, president and founder of the Pacific Justice Institute, told the Daily Signal in an interview Tuesday. The SPLC brands Pacific Justice Institute an anti-LGBTQ hate group because it opposes the LGBTQ agenda. Task force membership. It says, while the SPLC does not appear directly on the task force, groups with close ties to it do have a presence there, as do other leftist groups. Task force includes American University's Polarization and Extremism Research and Innovation Lab. That's a heck of a name. Oh, see, it spells something, because of course it does. Perril's co-founding director, Cynthia Miller Idris, serves on the SPLC's Tracking Hate and Extremism Advisory Committee. Miller Idris presented to the task force in January, so she's directly connected, not just like tangentially, which is what I was assuming some of these would be. It says Kate Bitts works at the Western State Center, an affiliate of the SPLC. She essentially endorsed the SPLC's 2020 hate map report. Other groups include the Anti-Defamation League Center on Extremism, which demonizes opposition to gender ideology, and Black Lives Matter Seattle-King County, which carried water for the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, an anarchist uprising amid the 2020 George Floyd riots. Planned Parenthood of Greater Washington and North Idaho also appears on the list. The task force includes law enforcement organizations, but no explicitly conservative groups. Dacus, who highlighted his organization's video condemning the SPLC, also condemned the Black Lives Matter chapter for explicit support of anarchy. This is what harm does the task force pose? Dacus warned of attempts to remove nonprofit status under Washington's tax code from organizations that are accused of being hate groups. The task force could also put pressure on banks to close out financial accounts from churches, ministries, and organizations that don't bend the knee to their radical, intolerant perspectives, he added. The SPLC has pressured charities and financial institutions to blacklist hate groups with some success. Dacus predicted that the task force will aim to substantively make it painful to have a conservative or traditional worldview. Mark Herr, president of the Center for Self-Governance, which SPLC brands an anti-government extremist group, echoed Dacus's warnings. But the SPLC has labeled mainstream organizations, I don't know why I said media there, just so used to saying those two words together, so let's start that again. As the SPLC has labeled mainstream organizations that advocate for civic education, religious liberty, pro-life policies, border security, and election integrity as extremist, raising concerns that Washington's domestic violent extremism task force could adopt similar definitions, he told the Daily Signal. If this occurs, conservatives could be unfairly monitored, censored, or even penalized under the guise of combating extremism. He further warned of government surveillance, financial blacklisting, or even legal consequences. The government must ensure that efforts to combat domestic violence extremism focus on actual threats of violence rather than targeting political opponents, Herr concluded. The Washington Policy Center, which has previously criticized the domestic extremism effort, also raised concerns about the task force. David Bose, the center's communication director, told the Daily Signal that conflating speech with actual violence undermines free speech. That's what communists do, though, right? Says it is an effective way of preempting debate, by disparaging an opponent rather than engaging in the free exchange of ideas. It is possible definitions could be construed in such a way as to smear ideological opponents by categorizing them alongside violent and terrorist groups, he warned. Yet both ultimately expressed confidence in the U.S. Constitution to protect Washingtonians from the worst excesses. Well, that goes as far as I think, like, justices, or I should say judges, really. Justices would imply the Supreme Court. But it would be like judges. If they just are going to be activists on the bench, that's not going to do anything for them. They have to take years for it to get to the Supreme Court, and who knows if they're going to make the right decision or not. As he warned that the effort will divert resources away from the serious issues of violence and crime. The potential lawsuits. As Dacus, the PGI president, urged anyone who suffers harm from the task force to reach out to its organization, or to his organization, for a potential lawsuit. We at the Pacific Justice Institute want to make it very clear. If any organization or ministry is attacked because of their traditional religious values, beliefs, or Judeo-Christian worldview, we want them to contact us immediately so we can help them examine their potential legal recourse, he told the Daily Signal. He noted that PGI has 36 offices, 3 in Washington state. And finishing this up, it says the Daily Signal reached out to the task force, to the SPLC, and to the task force member group cited for their responses to criticism. None responded by publication time. Yeah, not surprised, and that is the end. So yeah, I mean, this is what's happening in Washington state, is the SPLC hate map here. And like I said, they have a habit of marking as extremists just regular conservative and Christian groups. And that's a problem. So let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.